session we will be covering this topic called simple pendulum. So you would have already studied SHM. So when you study simple harmonic motion, which is your SHM, towards the end of this topic you will come across simple pendulum, right? So maybe somewhere in the middle as well. So in this particular session we will derive the formula for the time period of simple pendulum, and to do that we will use some basic concepts of simple harmonic motion, right? So I believe you would have seen this equation y is equals to a sine omega t, right? And you would know that this is the equation of a simple harmonic motion, right? So let's see how the motion of a simple pendulum is very similar to this equation that you are seeing right now. So how a simple pendulum looks like is, from a point we suspend what is known as a bob by a thread of some length L. So by the way, there's a reason why this one is called simple pendulum, because there are lots of other pendulums. So like something like, maybe if you have an object of this sort, and if I pivot it from this point, this can oscillate about this axis hinged at this point. But this won't be called as a simple pendulum. A simple pendulum is something which looks like this, which has a string attached of a certain length and has a bob attached to it, right? And this will be called as a physical pendulum. So what we will see through the video is that a simple pendulum, or any pendulum for that matter, for small oscillations it exhibits SHM, which means if I pull it from some angle theta, if this theta is very small, if this theta is small, or maybe even here in this case, if I just pull it like this, it will take a shape of this sort, and this will be the new axis, and the angle between them will be theta, such that your theta is very small. Then they will exhibit simple harmonic motion. So we won't be deriving the formula for this one, but for this one we will derive the formula. You will also understand why only for small oscillations it exhibits SHM and not for big ones. So let's go about it. Let's see how this motion is similar to this, right? So when you pull the bob by this angle, what you will notice is it will try to come back to this position, but because when it comes to the mean position, this is known as the mean position, by the way. So mean position is that position where your net force becomes zero. There's no force acting. So it comes here, but because it has already gained some kinetic energy, it already has a velocity, it will go and it will keep oscillating in this manner, right? So when it is present here at this angle theta, let's see what are the forces acting on this bob. So let me just redraw the diagram here. You have tension which pulls it towards this particular point, and then you have mg which acts downwards, right? And then if I were to split mg along the string and perpendicular to it, this will be mg cos theta, and this will be mg sin theta, right? So I can just redraw them here. This is mg sin theta, and this is mg cos theta. Now what you need to understand is forces produce torque, right? So if I say that, okay, this is a point, and about this point this is a force which acts, right? What is the torque produced by this force at this point, right? About this point, you just need to throw a displacement vector and then take their cross product to get the torque produced, right? So in case your force crosses this point, the r will be 0. There will be no perpendicular distance between the force and the radius and the point. So in that case the torque will be 0. So let's calculate the torque produced by each of these forces in this case. About this point, this is my point, I need to find the torque about this point. So as you can see, tension is straight away passing through this point. So torque due to tension is 0. mg cos theta again is in the line of this point. So there is no perpendicular distance between the line of action of mg cos theta and this point. So once again torque produced by mg cos theta also is 0. But as far as mg sin theta is concerned, well, it does have a distance of L a perpendicular distance of L from this point. So straight away torque produced by mg sine theta, torque due to mg sine theta is nothing but force into perpendicular distance. In fact, r cross f, if you want, you can get the direction as well. Throw the displacement vector here. This is your displacement vector. This is mg sine theta. R cross f, put a screw, rotate from r to f through the smaller angle, and then you'll see that the screw goes in, right? So the torque will be inside, but we don't need the direction of torque here as far as our formula derivation is concerned. So we'll just multiply this mg sine theta with L, right? This is the torque produced by mg sine theta. Now what you need to understand is, this is a restoring torque. This is the restoring torque. Why is it called restoring? Because it is this mg sine theta which tries to bring this bob back to the equilibrium position. Once again, what is your equilibrium position? Where your net force acting on the system is 0, right? Basically, if you leave it completely, it will keep oscillating and it will come back to rest at this particular position. So at mean position, this is basically your equilibrium position, or rather it's called mean position in simple harmonic motion. At mean position, the net force will be 0, right? So this mg sin theta tries to bring it back to the mean position. That's why the torque produced by mg sin theta is called the restoring torque, right? So restoring, because it's called restoring torque, it's usually denoted with this negative sign, because I'm going to just equate this to something right now. You just see. So torque can also be written as I alpha, right? So I is the moment of inertia of this bob, about the axis passing through, so this is the axis of rotation, right? The axis which goes like that. Your mass is at a distance L from the axis, and the rotation is about this particular axis. So what is the moment of inertia of the bob about that axis? Is nothing but ml square, because I'm treating my bob as a point mass right now, right? So ml square into alpha can be equated to my torque, which is my restoring torque here, minus mg sin theta into L. And by the way, why am I calling it minus mg sin theta? Because it's restoring, right? So alpha can be now written as, your m will get cancelled, L gets cancelled, you have a g by L with a negative sign, and then you have sin theta, right? But as I told you, your theta is very, very small, right? You're pulling the bob by a very, very small angle. So for very, very small angles, your sin theta approximately becomes equal to theta. So I can replace the sin theta with theta, and what I can write is alpha is equals to minus g by L into theta. Now, this is the exact step because of which this statement holds. For small exhibitions, small oscillations, it exhibits SHM, right? So this is the main point here, right? Because this equation is very similar to your SHM's equation. So in SHM, what we know is that acceleration is related to displacement as A is equals to minus omega square x, where A is your acceleration, right? Restoring acceleration, and x is your displacement. And when you talk in terms of angular variables, then you have alpha equal to minus omega square theta, right? I could have also done this entire derivation in terms of linear variables and not angular variables. The result would have still been the same. But nevertheless, I can use this relation now, alpha equal to minus omega square theta. So this is pretty similar. This and this are very similar. Both of these conditions are for SHM. As you can see, this particular expression will turn to this only if this holds good, right? And only if it turns to this, I can call it as SHM. So this step is very, very crucial for it to be called an SHM. And this step itself means that the oscillations have to be small, right? So that's why for small oscillations, it exhibits SHM. So your omega, if you just match these two, your omega square will be g by L. So your omega will be equal to root g by L. By the way, which omega is this? That's another important point here. So as you can see, this is sort of an oscillation here, right? So this is if this whole thing completes a circular motion, if the bob keeps going in a circular motion, don't call that as omega, right? This omega is different. This omega is different. This omega is the omega of the SHM, of the simple harmonic motion. So if I were to represent this motion as a phasor diagram, so I'm not going to discuss phasor diagram in this particular video, but if I were to represent this motion as a phasor diagram, every motion can be represented, every simple harmonic motion can be represented as a phasor diagram. So the rotation of the body in that phasor diagram, that is omega, right? That omega and this omega need not be the same. So this omega corresponds to that. Just keep that in mind. This omega is equal to root g by L. This is the time period for oscillations, right? From here I'll get the time period for oscillation. Time period is nothing but 2 pi by omega, and that's nothing but 2 pi under root L divided by G. So as you can clearly see that the time period is independent of mass. So if I put a 1 kg bob, or if I put a 10 kg bob, or if I put a 15 kg bob, doesn't make any difference, because the formula says that the time period depends only on length and G. So G is basically that acceleration which is acting as your restoring acceleration over here. So if you take the bob to some other place, maybe not Earth, but somewhere else wherein your acceleration due to gravity has a different value, the formula for time period will change, and you have questions based on that model, right? So for instance, if you put a bob in a moving lift, then the time period will change because your G effective will change, right? In a moving lift, rather in an accelerating lift, not just a moving lift. As far as your length is concerned, if you vary the length of the bob, that also will have an effect on the time period, as you can see. But you might get a little tricky questions wherein they might just change the mass of the bob and they'll ask you what the time period is. So you need to keep in mind that the time period doesn't depend on the mass at all. The formula for time period is 2 pi under root L by G. In fact, the derivation for simple physical pendulum also is on the similar lines. What you do is you just displace it. You have the simple pendulum. You displace it by some angle theta, and then you calculate its center of mass from where mg will act, right? From where mg will act. You calculate the restoring torque due to that mg. Equate that to I alpha, equate that restoring torque to I alpha, and then get this sort of a relation, right? Using this approximation. Once again, even here, if you rotate it by a bigger angle, then sine theta will not be approximately equal to theta. And if it's not equal to theta, then I won't get this expression, and then I can't call it an SHM, right? So you take a very, very similar approach, and I'll just write the formula for time period of a physical pendulum. It's 2 pi under root I by mgd, where I is the moment of inertia. So basically, if I hinge it here, this will be my axis of rotation, right? This will be my axis of rotation. The moment of inertia of this entire body about this axis is called as your I, right? M is the mass of the physical pendulum, G is the acceleration due to gravity, and D is the distance from this particular point. If your gravity acts at this point, let's say this was your point from where gravity was acting, then mg will be like that, and the distance between that point and the axis of rotation is called your D, right? So you plug in the values, and as you can see, even here, if you plug in the values for I also will have something like mr square or md square plus something. So there will be mass here, and that mass and this mass will cancel, and this formula also will most likely be independent of mass, right? Just like a simple pendulum. So these are important points to keep in mind as far as a simple pendulum and a physical pendulum is concerned. That's how you approach and you build this particular condition and equate it to SHM, right? So if you look at this, y is equal to a sine omega t. Here your displacement was on the y side, and a sine omega t is what you had. Here your SHM is occurring basically about these 2 points, right? So your bob is here. After some time it will be here, and then here, right? So if your angles are small, then these three, this position and this position, they'll lie on the same line. But if your angles are huge, then this will go up, right? So if your angles are huge, you can see even then it will not even look like an SHM, and this condition also will get violated. So both ways you can verify that your angles have to be small so that these three positions are on the same straight line, right? And then this is called as your plus a, this is your x equal to 0, this is called as your minus a. So when you write the equation for this x here over the displacement of the bob from this mean position, and you call it as an x, then you'll get the equation of this as x equals to a sine omega t, right? You can just verify that yourself. A can be got using this theta naught. You get the maximum value for theta and use Pythagoras theorem to get the maximum amplitudes, like maximum displacement or amplitudes value. And omega is nothing but this. You've already got it here, so you can plug that here, and that's how that motion and this simple harmonic motion equation are similar to each other. So with this, we complete all the important topics, all the important subtopics of this particular topic called simple pendulum. I hope you found this session informative. Thanks for watching.